appreciate you tuning into this episode of the Wolves Den. Today we got a special guest with us, Aaron Levin. Hopefully I pronounced the last name right, but great to have you on and talk a little bit more about what you do and how we work together in some different industries that we're in.
I'm glad to finally be able to connect. I know we've been trying to put this on the calendar for some time now, so it's exciting to finally be here virtual. And then when I get you on my show, we're going to do it in person.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Now, I appreciate you reaching out in the first place. I know you guys are down in Monmouth County, down by the beach area.
Yeah, so we're located in Monmouth County, but we're licensed in 17 states. So we do a lot of work, obviously, in New Jersey and New York. But if there's good business and good clients local that have expanded, we follow them.
Sure. That's what it's all about. Customers are the key to a successful business. So
easier for me than you, right? I'm in the service business. I bring a laptop. You're not traveling that far.
Correct. Sure. We got crews, we got equipment, we got all that stuff, and obviously the weather to deal with. So,
right.
Tell me a little bit more about just a little bit more background on you, about your upbringing, what got you into the insurance industry in the first place, just so that the viewers and listeners could get a better understanding of who you are.
Yeah, so I'm 14 years in the insurance industry as an agency owner. I started out basically because insurance can be a commodity. All right, it is in some cases a commodity, but I don't treat it as such anymore. But in the beginning, 14 years ago, when I started, when we were in 2008, the economy wasn't so good. I was losing money in the real estate business. And I really had to either go into liquor sales, because liquor is good in good times and in bad, or do something different. And I chose to go full-time into insurance and open my doors with no customers, no furniture, and no money, and said, okay, here we go. Now let's go sell something, right? I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. And, we've built the business up where now I act more as a consultant, and we work with mid-size and large businesses to help with total cost of risk and reduce the overall exposure for companies. We still work with small businesses, and I love talking to anybody that wants to have a conversation about insurance, risk, cost reduction, anything in those areas, because those are fun conversations to have, and we want to have them before a claim happens, not after.
Sure, 100%, 100% understand. And I think what you said before that really hit home with me is ready, aim, and fire. Because you just have, as an entrepreneur trying to start up a business, no matter what industry you are in, it's always learning on the go. It's never the way it's intended to be. It's never ideal, but that's just part of owning a business and going through some obstacles that you can never predict. One of my business coaches told me that in life or running a business, you're given the lesson first. Or excuse me, in school, you're given the lesson first, then the test. Then in real life, you're given the test and then the lesson after. And I think that hits home very well to you and I and other entrepreneurs out there.
Sometimes those lessons are expensive to learn, but there's only one way to do it, and that's to fail forward, right?
Yes, exactly. So is there a specific type of insurance that you really specify in?
Yeah, so if I were to classify my business, I would put it into 3 different compartments. One, we do a lot of personal insurance, home auto bundles in the high net worth space and middle market space. In our area, we deal with a lot of coastal properties, which are investment properties, vacation homes. So we're dealing with property owners that own multiple dwellings. So that's a big thing for us. We deal a lot in the restaurant space. Hospitality is a big niche for us. And then general construction contractors, because we're, when you dive into the contracts between GC, sub, and sub of subs, it gets very intricate, very detailed, and we like to follow the way those things go. They keep us on our toes.
So I've been meaning to ask, I know you started your business back in 2008. I gather you were around and experienced Hurricane Sandy the Jersey Shore got hit very, very hard. So what was your experience like that in the insurance side?
Again, that was the expensive lesson. Actually, Irene, the year prior to that, was the expensive lesson. Irene hit our coastal areas, hit our rivers pretty hard. There was some damage. Sandy was worse, but Irene was the big lesson because I had a lot of claims during Irene.
Okay.
And so I was 3 years in the business, and I had a client that I delivered a $500,000 check to. And I tell the story all the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing good. I got him the money that he needed to rebuild. I was there every week, making sure things were in progress. He was able to rebuild, get back open again. And then I got fired.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, wait, huh? And so that was my first real big financial loss in the
Mhm.
insurance space, right?
Yeah,
One, dealing with and learning about the claims experience, helping somebody get everything in order, and putting all my effort into making sure they can rebuild, delivering $500,000 is a lot of
sure.
money. Then it still is a lot of money now. And then I got fired. And it's always the what can you do for me tomorrow, not what did you do for me yesterday? Right.
Correct.
That's the lesson learned. And then obviously Sandy came, and I was much more versed in flood insurance and everything else that goes with it. And I
Mhm.
got sued after Sandy, so I had to put in a claim to my own insurance. So I
Oh,
learned how to be deposed. It was my first time being deposed and having to go through that process. Not fun.
mhm.
But again, it's like you said early on in this conversation, it's all about the lessons learned,
Correct.
and how do we keep them as inexpensive as possible
Yep.
is what I try to do now for other business owners.
Awesome. So obviously being on the Golden Wolf podcast, we are going to be having several listeners, if not most listeners, be in the landscape, GC, construction type of industries. So from your perspective, how could business owners, landscape business owners, people in the trades really reduce their costs of risk when it comes to the insurance side, or just risk in general from your perspective?
Yeah, so listen, there's two sides of risk, right? There's speculative risk, which we're going to make money on, and then there's the pure risk, which is going to cost us money. And the difference between my business and yours is you have a significant amount of money tied up in assets, depreciating
Mhm.
assets, vehicles, equipment, and you rely heavily on labor. I rely heavily on labor too,
Sure.
in just a different fashion. But when you're dealing with vehicles, equipment, other people's property, you have different risks than I might have.
Mhm.
Um, in the landscape we're in right now, 2023, and going back to 2022, even all the way to 2019, we started seeing a trend of insurance premiums starting to rise, what we call a hard market. So costs have been going up, and we're seeing that trend continue into 2023. We're finding it some challenges in the higher limits of the marketplace. In construction, we're seeing costs go up. Carriers are fewer, right? We've seen some companies leave the state of New Jersey. So it all comes down to controlling and understanding where your costs are. Your costs are in your insurance costs, your vehicle maintenance, right? At the end of the day, one, we want to keep vehicles on the road. We want to avoid accidents. We want to keep equipment where it belongs, avoid it being stolen. Don't leave the keys in it, right? There was a thing on the
Mhm.
news where a huge construction yard was
Oh,
vandalized.
I saw that. Yeah.
I
It
don't know
was
if the
terrible. That
keys
was,
were left in. It's crazy.
yeah, that was right down the road from you, or close to you guys, I would say, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't drive over there to check it out, but I didn't look it too far into it, but I gotta imagine somebody left the keys in a
Yeah,
digger. I mean, what if one of these kids got hurt that vandalized the
mhm,
site also? There would have
sure.
been another lawsuit on top of that. So the things that go through my head when I see things like that is just nuts, right? So we want
Sure.
to protect our equipment, we want to protect our employees, and we want to make sure everybody stays safe, right? So when we're looking at this, everybody's like, oh, that's common sense, no brainer. But did you actually take the time to
Mhm,
understand if you have a safety program in place? Do you have the
mhm.
safeguards put in place on all your tools and equipment? I hate when I see a carpenter cutting with the safety guard on the
Yep,
circular saw held up because they can cut
right.
faster, right? They can cut their hand off faster, right? We
Mhm.
want to we want to avoid that because I've seen it, and
Yeah,
I saw somebody get their face cut off, not off, but
yeah,
sliced open
yeah.
because there was an issue with one of the guards on a piece of equipment when they were trying to slice through a doorway to create a new entryway, and he got his whole face sliced. You're damaged for life, right? Like,
Yeah,
so to save 10 seconds, we don't want to do that.
no.
So when it comes to your insurance programs, when you can tell me as your agent, Aaron, I have a safety manual, we meet monthly, we have a safety meeting, All of our equipment is checked monthly to make sure all the safeguards are in place. Everything is maintained. Here's my vehicle safety program. We have a maintenance plan for all of our trucks that are out on the road. Here's my driver's list. We make sure that we have good, safe drivers on the road. We have a telematics system that has GPS tracking and cameras in the trucks. In case there's an accident, we can see the video of what exactly did happen, because whether it's your fault or not, it's still your fault because you're the business. So there's these different things that can be put in place, which are a little bit of work up front, but the amount of money you'll save later, both on insurance costs and having the ability to keep trucks and employees on the road and in the field, is going to save you a lot of money, because you're going to be out there able to make more money, right?
Correct.
So that's the big push for 2023 is telematics in the vehicles, vehicle safety programs, maintenance, and just overall having that relationship with your employees, whether it's you, me, a third-party software. We use a loss control company called Yellowbird that aligns us with professionals throughout the country to help put these safety plans in place. They cost a little bit of money, but the expense is going to be given back to you tenfold when you can keep working. And guess what? A safe company is a profitable company, because we also find there's a direct correlation between companies being safe and companies also doing good work at the end of the day, right? You care. I watch everything that you're doing on Instagram. I see you're doing a huge project, a huge house. I think there's a pool, a retaining wall, a deck, like some tremendous hardscape. You want these people to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with you to trust you to do that work. Well, if you've got dirty trucks and you don't look good when you show up to the job site, those are going to be harder jobs to get later on.
Yep. First impressions are everything. And I really think you hit the nail on the head there. And coming into this year, we are actually implementing cameras in vehicles. God forbid something were to happen, knock on wood, as well as we had GPS tracking, but we're going to be changing over our GPS tracking. So, I mean, I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, because it's so important. It's the little things that add up to preventing something disastrous in the future. And safety, that's a non-negotiable for us, and I know a lot of other companies, because God forbid someone were to get hurt or injured or lose a life. And worst case scenario, I mean, I as a business owner, I wouldn't be able to go home and go to sleep knowing that there could have been measures in place to prevent that.
And
So
whether it's your employee or it's an innocent bystander, right? Someone's kid that gets hurt playing on a piece of equipment that's not properly protected because it's left in the yard overnight, right? Like, I did a project at my house. I had a small bulldozer in my yard for a week and a half. There was no keys, but the keys were left in it. One of the neighborhood kids was like, "Oh, we're gonna go take this for a ride," and God knows what would have happened.
Seriously. So another question that I'm thinking of right now is, what would the first thing be that you would advise any business owner getting or starting a business? What was the first thing that you think would be best for them to do?
I love that question. I'm I said it, ready, fire, aim. Just go for it. If you think you have a business, there's some people that want you got to write a business plan. You have to, put your funding in place. These are all important things. But if you have an idea and you have the means to lose, I say go for it, right? Taking the risk is always the most important piece of the puzzle. Yeah, vetting it out, having the business plan, talking to other professionals is huge too. But I'm a big fan of taking that risk, calculated risk, so long as you can afford to lose while taking that risk, depending on the type and size of business, of course. But I always love it, and I'm always willing and able to share my ideas because I love talking to other professionals like yourself. Like, that's why I love doing these podcasts. I learn something every time. And you know what I love the best? When I get an attorney on the podcast, get free legal advice. It's the best thing in the world.
I mean, this is the second best thing.
So if you haven't had an attorney on the podcast yet, about contracts, like, you're going to get a free legal review about your contract on your podcast.
Or an accountant or something like that, for sure.
The accountants are good too. It's coming into tax season. But, I'm a big fan of go for it and share with as many people as you can, because people that I meet say, "Oh, I've got this great idea, but I can't tell you about it." Guess what? Their idea never goes anywhere, and I'm always they're full of shit because they think they've got something, but all they want to do is say they have something, even though they really have nothing.
Exactly. So I know something that you brought up a couple minutes ago is over the past couple years, ever since COVID, you saw rates increasing.
Yep.
Two-part question. Why is that happening? And is that more on the general liability side, auto side, or workman's compensation?
So workers' comp in the state of New Jersey actually decreased by 6% this year in January. The general overall rate reduced by 6%. So you'll actually see, if everything was status quo, you'd see a reduction in your workers' compensation premium by about 6%. Some class
Right.
codes, plus or minus, but so workers' comp is in a great place in the state of New Jersey. We also are able to find good credits. We have tremendous relationships where we like to maximize dividends and credits to make sure that we're taking advantage of the workers' comp to offset some of the other stuff. Now, why are rates going up? Reinsurance costs are through the roof, right? So globally, the world is a mess when it comes to insurance. A lot of it is property based, right? We're seeing a lot of issues on the property side. I think in 2022, there was like $160 billion worth of property damage
No.
by major storms, right? So somebody's paying for this,
Yeah.
you know? So a lot of it is property driven. On the GL side, we're seeing things about status quo, taking normal 6, 7, 8% increases. Commercial autos going up because cost to repair vehicles has gotten significantly more expensive. The time a vehicle is out and being repaired has gone up because we can't get parts. There's still a delay on getting some parts.
Mhm.
Um, and we're seeing lawsuits go through the roof, right? So if there's an automobile accident and your driver's at fault, the other driver, whether they're hurt or not, is going to sue you. So there's lawsuits going wild right now when it comes to businesses. So, there was times where I might recommend, business owners take lower limits, less than $1 million, maybe $500,000 from time to time. We want to get as much insurance as we can because we're not worried about the small claim, we're worried about the big claim.
Mhm.
And then we're also seeing, employer claim issues going on. I've seen employees go out on workers' comp, get hurt, then
Mhm.
sue their employer on top of it for an unsafe work environment. So there's like a double dip going on there, and you're affected twice, both on your EPLI and your workers' comp. So it just all becomes a big mess. So we're seeing just lawsuits through the roof, property costs
Mhm.
are going up. So everybody's going to be paying more for their insurance, and everybody's like, oh, the big bad insurance companies, just because Geico has $1 billion worth of commercials on TV. Really, the insurance companies, a lot of them are losing money the last couple of years, and they need to recoup, obviously, but they run at like 4 to 6% profit. They're not making, they're running a lot of premium, but the profit margin on a lot of the insurance companies is not as high as it may have once been.
Sure. So where do you see rates going into the future, 6, 8, 12, 24 months, if you could forecast out that far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guiding people, to plan for 20% increases this year,
Okay.
right? As I'm going through renewals, we're anticipating 20%. I think we're going to see it again in 2024. Then hopefully after that, things can balance out. Mother Nature treats us well.
Mhm.
And we can then go into a different market, which we call a soft market, and then we can see rates going down the other way. But as long as lawsuits are coming out in droves and lawyers are making money hand over fist by suing business owners because they have insurance money,
Mhm.
at some point there's got to be a shift. The tables have to turn, but I don't know when. But I think premiums will hit that threshold and will plateau off before they come back down again. So I would plan for 20% this year.
Okay. Is there specific amounts of like, just say over the past 5 years, is it like a historical average that it goes up? And is this abnormal that we're seeing, or is this relatively on pace, or even above 5 years? It could be 10, 15, 20 years. Like what's the average, would you say?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm going to have to research it, but I don't really know what the average is, right? So in 2008, 2000 to 2010, 12, 11, we were seeing rates go down, right? We were in a soft market.
Mhm.
Insurance companies were profitable, claims were handled, so then everything was plateaued off. Then we started 2018, 19 we started seeing rates start ticking up again, going into hard market because we're seeing more lawsuits, global weather phenomenon, disasters, whatever you want to call them, starting to increase. And then it's accelerated through COVID. And now, insurance companies are playing catch up, right?
Sure.
So I think we're in an exceptional time right now with rates going up way too fast for us as business owners to handle. I mean,
Sure.
my insurance bill just for my office is $12,000 a year,
Really?
right? And I sit in an office, right? That's my
Yeah.
E&O. I have commercial auto, I have workers' compensation, general liability, right? Like,
Mhm.
I pay $12,000 as an insurance agency.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not a little bit of money.
Sure.
My commercial auto for one vehicle is like $3,000 a year for I have one vehicle on the road and it's not a construction vehicle.
Mhm. Pretty easy.
But I have very high limits because God forbid something happens. I want to be as
Mhm.
protected as I best possibly can be.
Sure.
So I carry an umbrella policy and I make sure that I have high limits and I have to practice what I preach.
Yep. So appreciate you sharing that. So I know we were speaking a couple of minutes ago regarding dash cams and
Mhm.
asset trackers and that, or GPS trackers in that sense. But outside of those, is there anything specific for fleet management or for asset trackers such as skid steers, excavators, larger pieces of equipment, trailers as well that you could manage to reduce risks and hopefully
Yeah.
cost on premium?
I mean, this goes to your human capital, right? Like this is all about safety, training, and maintenance, right? Is all the equipment maintained properly that it's not going to break? Having no losses is good for your premiums because if you're clean, your rate goes down. The minute you start having claims, you're going to see your rates go up even higher. And that goes for regular vehicles, trailers, trucks, and landscape equipment. It's just making sure that everything is maintained and that people know how to operate appropriately, right? So it's not about putting in a claim and having your insurance go up. It's about not putting a claim and doing the best to keep your insurance down, right? So maybe we don't find a discount, but
Sure.
if we can say, hey, underwriter, we have 7 pieces of heavy equipment here. Here's our safety manuals. Here's the drivers here's our operators. We do a monthly training. Here's our maintenance program. That underwriter's gonna be like, whoa, I have the ability to add more credits here to save, put more discounts on this policy. We're gonna go ahead and maximize that because
Hmm.
we know that at the end of the day, this company, right, is set up appropriately and they're managing their employees, their human capital, as well as their hard capital to make sure that everything is well protected. And that comes with the relationship with your insurance agent, whether it's me or somebody else, that the agent is looking out for you, helping you put these loss control measures in place, checking that you have these things, and then presenting you in the best light possible to the insurance companies so that the insurance carriers want to insure your business
Mhm.
and they do so at the best possible rate that's available to the underwriters in the system. And that
Sure.
doesn't mean go shopping every year. It means develop a relationship, whether it's a Selective or a Liberty Mutual or a Nationwide, and continuing to work so that we maximize available credits every single year to keep the rate as low as possible while the coverage high, and
Mhm.
continuing to be on a good basis with that insurance company and the agent.
Makes sense. And developing relationship, like anything in business, having a relationship and building a little bit of a history with that provider will definitely help you out in the long run, I would assume,
Right.
correct?
Absolutely. And you know what? And I also tell people every couple of years, if your agent's not out there shopping and seeing what other companies want to bid on your insurance,
Mhm.
the agent's not doing their job either, right? The agent's
Correct.
not helping with loss control. The agent's not having active and proactive and conversations that are just acting reactive. It's time to switch agents.
Sure. Something that I just thought about as well, speaking of agents. So I know some business owners, some landscapers that are looking specifically for to get insurance that they could just go right to the carrier. rather than going through an agent. Which one would you recommend, and why or why not?
All right, so I'm not going to go online and get a quote for my my new patio either, right? Am I going to go to Angie's List and get the lowest bidder online and hire them on the spot? Probably not,
Never.
right? Right? Not happening, right? With such a complex product as insurance, and it is complex, but
Hmm.
you're paying me for my experience. And by the way, you're not paying me directly because I make a commission from the insurance company. Why
Hmm.
wouldn't somebody work with an agent to develop a relationship and build a program out? Yes, you can go to Next or Buy Burke or whatever other website exists out there to try to find something cheap, but all you're going to get is something cheap, and there's the potential to have a lot of missed coverages in there, high deductibles, right? You're not going to get what you truly might need. And then when you have a question, when there's an issue, who you're going to call, right? I get that. I want to pick your brain, Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what happened? Something
Mhm.
happened. You're not my client. Why do I have to help you? It's too
Correct.
late. Call your agent.
Yep.
And I've had to use that before. Call your agent. Oh, I bought it online. Okay. Call the 800 number and
Correct.
hope that call center in India or the Philippines. I love my Filipinos. I have 3 of them on my full-time staff and they're phenomenal, but they don't know what you're going through personally when it comes to
Right.
legal issues.
Yeah.
So agents have access to the same markets as you do online. So why not hire a professional? It's, unless you're doing your taxes online and you're using LegalZoom to get your client contracts and your subcontractor agreements done, it's the same thing goes for insurance professionals,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Hire a professional, because I don't want to do anything myself either, by the way.
Mhm.
I want professionals to do it right. I
Yep.
want my patio done by a professional. I'm not laying it by myself. I don't want to do the work, so the same goes for all the professional services that we use. Let's hire the best people we can, and at the end of the day, I know we're going to either save money or be able to make more money to offset any additional costs.
Yeah, and they're there as a team. They're there to back you and stand behind what may come your way, especially in an insurance avenue. You never know what's going to come your way. So being able to have that agent or someone that you
Absolutely.
could ask questions for, that personal relationship, that could save you hours, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. So I really think, personally speaking, it's probably been the best thing that I've done as a business
Right.
owner, make that connection, because you see all these advertisements for, like you were saying, Next and Buy Burke, and it's everywhere, but
Right.
it's the human connection that they're lacking, and
Yeah.
that's what you need as a small business owner. That's really what you need to get started.
I mean, you said it exactly right. They're part of your team. You have a professional team that
Hmm.
surrounds you for
Yep.
insurance, legal, accounting, and everything else that goes with it, right?
Sure.
That's your team that goes to bat for you when anything happens.
Yep. And you can't have a missing link.
Absolutely.
So, what are some things that you have experienced that are the main drivers in raising premiums for different insurances that you've witnessed?
Yeah, so we have issues with drivers. People driving vehicles with bad driver's licenses
Okay.
is a huge one for me, right? Pet peeve. When I look at an account, when I'm working with somebody, I want to see the driver's list. I want to look at the motor vehicle records. And I understand it's challenging to hire people. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But if you're hiring somebody that has 6 moving violations, and then you're mad at me because your insurance premium went up, it's not my fault,
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
The insurance company knows that that guy that you hired is going to cause an accident someday, and then you're going to get sued, and the insurance company is going to pay out a hell of a lot more money than you're paying in premium, right?
Sure.
Let data's there. We know these things happen. So hiring safe drivers is number one. Somebody that has a good driving record, right? We want to make sure that the drivers are approved to operate vehicles. And I would assume those same drivers should be the ones operating heavy machinery as well, not the same guy that has 6 moving violations, right?
Yeah.
To me, he's just not trustworthy. Yes, we want to give people a chance,
Mhm.
but it scares the crap out of me when somebody gets hired and they have that kind of driving record, to be honest.
Question for you regarding that. So, if you without trying to get too far in the interview process, where can you legally obtain that information to check and see if that person is going to be a problem for you or not?
It's a great question. When it's at the application phase, they need to present to you a copy of their motor vehicle record. So they go to the DMV, or they think you can even go online, and they print out their motor vehicle record and they bring it with the application.
Okay. So just have
Right.
it standard in your application interview process.
Have it part of the application process. Like,
Sure.
before you even get an interview, I need to know that you're legally and safely can operate a vehicle,
Sure.
right? Whether it's a CDL or not.
Correct.
Sometimes we run motor vehicle reports. I can run a motor vehicle report for you, so long as the employee signs off and understands that they're having reports run, right? But I technically can only share it with the underwriters. I'm not supposed to share it back to you. So if they bring it to you and then you share it with me and say, hey, Aaron, we got this. What do you think of this MVR, motor vehicle record? Are they going to be an approved driver, right? That becomes a conversation with the agent. So I
Sure.
love when they can bring the motor vehicle record to the table.
Okay. And if people aren't going to be drivers, does it still apply to them or not as much?
Good question. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Because you never know. What if that person
Yeah,
calls out sick and you have to
right? Right. I mean,
Sure.
when it comes to commercial automobile insurance, technically any employee can drive the vehicle, but if you have somebody driving that wasn't listed and then they get into an accident, it causes a bit of a headache.
Yeah.
Then the insurance company doesn't trust you, then your rates go up, and then you're mad at me again.
Makes sense. Fair enough. Sure. Another thing I was just thinking about in terms of drivers, obviously, I'm not sure if specifically you do snow insurance.
Oh God, do we have to go there?
For the audience, I really think it would be helpful just to like a bird's eye 30,000 foot view of snow insurance, because I know it is the most expensive insurance out there. So I just want to get your perspective on it from the agent's point of view.
So there's two kinds of snow removal. There's shovel, right? Boots on the ground with shovel, maybe a snow blower. You can buy that on Next. You can buy it online. It's very cheap. But people think they're going to buy cheap insurance that they can go hook a plow up to their truck and, go plow a Walmart parking lot, right? It doesn't work that way. When you get into heavy duty plow stuff, into commercial plowing, the rates start at $25,000, whether it snows or it doesn't snow, right? We're not charging by the inch here when it comes to the insurance. And that's for small commercial. It starts at 25,000, then it gets rated per blade per vehicle. The biggest issue with snow that we've had in the past in the state of New Jersey is ice watch, right? We want to see the contract between you, right, the contractor, and the location that says, hey, we are not responsible for ice watch. Our responsibility is to plow clear, salt once, overnight. It is your responsibility. And then the location, the property owner will sign off on that. That transfers the liability back to the location owner, whether it's an apartment complex or a commercial property, for the overnight refreeze, which is always what happens. And then somebody slips and falls and gets hurt the next day. Right. So we've seen all these landscape companies, these snow removal companies get sued because of ice related issues. It's not because the plow takes something out, that can happen. That's small property damage. Yes, a plow can hurt somebody if somebody's in the wrong place and the driver's not paying attention. That goes under the commercial auto, but snow removal and ice becomes the issue. So we don't want any responsibility for ice watch as a landscaper. If the property owner wants you to be responsible for ice watch, your rates go up because you have to then check that property every couple of hours. You're back at 2 a.m. to put more salt down, and then again at 5 before the location opens up again.
Yeah.
Right. So your responsibilities go up with your human capital and your equipment and the supplies that you need.
Sure. Yeah, because I know salting is such a huge business, especially in New Jersey. We're always in that in between weather where it rain and then rain and then rain.
I think we're getting it tonight, right?
Yeah, it's definitely coming in. We just had it last night, and it's going to be coming early tomorrow, late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So, I mean, it's a huge moneymaker because there's not historically over the past couple of years, we've been getting less and less snow and more
Right.
ice. So it's
Uh,
always a very tough pill to swallow coming coming from your end. I get it. You always are trying to keep us safe and free of liability, but obviously when business slows down for the year, we don't have as many jobs going on. We just
sure.
try to take what we can more or
Right.
less.
There
Take
was
the
some proposed legislation. I don't know where it is. I don't think it's gone anywhere, but there was legislation proposed to help,
yes, Pennsylvania. That was
snowplow.
it.
Okay.
So they,
Um,
I'm pretty sure just spitting off the record now, but in Pennsylvania, the contractor is not responsible for any slip and falls. New Jersey,
correct.
you are responsible, something along those lines.
Yeah, and there was legislation proposed in New Jersey to reverse that, and I don't think it's gone anywhere. Which if we got that, we would see
Mhm.
rates come down 50%
Oh
overnight,
yeah.
right? Because the headache and the liability goes by the wayside.
Do you see that ever happening?
It's not something that I've followed. I'd have to look up to see if that legislation
Sure.
comes through. I would love it, but I guess it's one of those things. It's between the landscape and snow associations versus the commercial proproperty owners.
Sure.
Who's got the better lawyers and more money into Trenton to make it happen? But I
I
don't.
wish. 'Cause
Uh,
it's a tough pill to swallow seeing that bill come across my desk for the renewal. It's never
Well,
ending, but
I
I
hope you get a
understand.
big snow so you can make up for it. And what do they call it? You call it white gold in your industry, right?
Yep. Yep. Or blood money as well. Either or. It's around the clock nonstop.
I love it.
But yeah, but snow is just a completely different ball game from a risk perspective as well as from a contractor perspective. I know a couple landscapers just don't even want anything to do with it, let
Right.
alone have to entertain just snow plowing. It's definitely takes a lot of toll, mental, physical, financial as well. So it's just again weighing out the risk versus reward factor for if that's not a service that you want to offer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So specifically, since our audience is more landscapers, contractors in a sense, is there any specific type of insurance, whether it be software or equipment based or human based in terms of like a workman's comp or disability that you think more contractors should have rather than the pizzeria down the place or around down the street or a dentist office or something like that?
Yeah. So, when it comes to hardscapes, right? So less lawn care, more hardscape and construction, right? And there's coverage out there for professional liability for errors and omissions, right?
Hmm,
You build, I'm just going to keep using the patio, for example, and the customer says, well, you screwed it up. It's not level on that side. You have to fix it, right? That's professional. That's going to cost you $20,000 to come back and do that repair because you got to rip it all out, re-level it, do it again. There's insurance that can protect you from these issues, right?
hmm.
Known as professional liability, that you make your own mistake, so to speak. Kind of get away, architects, errors and omissions, right, for drawing something incorrectly. So there's any kind of professional service, because you are providing a service, can
Mhm.
have an errors and omissions policy, a professional liability policy to protect those mistakes that might happen, right? So I love adding that E&O in. Doesn't apply everywhere, but if you're doing large hardscapes, pool companies should have it, right? Because we're always worried about a pop out when it comes to pools. Anybody designing anything should have it if there's a huge error when it comes to it, or if you're putting in a pool and a wall and you read the plans wrong and you have to move the wall 3 feet. That's huge expense, right? Because the homeowner can't get a CO now because we don't have proper coverage, right? So things like that, you can get protected for it.
Okay.
The other thing is employment practices liability. This is for any kind of business, right? This is harassment, discrimination, wrongful termination, violations of the Immigration Reform Act of 1986, which means you hire illegals and then you get criminally picked up for it. You have a criminal defense that can help you, you
Mhm.
know. So it's a very popular coverage. It's gotten more popular through COVID, but every business, whether you're in the restaurant business, professional service, or in the construction service business, and you have, I would say more than 5 employees, I always recommend having it, because everybody's your friend until they're not. And when they're not your friend, it gets very expensive.
Yep, it only takes that one homeowner. I know everyone's had that experience, that one homeowner that's just a pain in the ass, but it's never
Yeah.
ideal, but it's inevitable to happen. And sometimes you can't catch it before it's too late.
Right. And so there's ways to protect yourself. And
Sure.
this comes to evaluating your risk tolerance, right? So this is a good one right here, is what is your risk tolerance? How much risk do you want to take on yourself with respect to potential errors that your employees might make?
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
Where do you want to be out of pocket at your worst case scenario, and then figure out how to pay to buy it back with insurance policies.
Correct. No, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you bringing up that specific point about what we on the other side of the table should be looking at, or at least asking if they're not dealing directly with you. So that's fantastic. But as we wrap up here, I'm just curious, is there any other things that you want to go over specifically, or anything that you want to ask me in terms of landscaping or insurance and landscaping relationship, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's your employee relationships, right? I think when we turn the tables and put you on my show, I think digging into what you do to make sure that you're running a safe operation for you and your staff, and the safety programs that you have in place, and how you've built your business, right? So I think when we get to part 2 on this, I think I'm gonna be able to ask you all those questions. And we'll be able to dive into that topic, and then be able to reshare it to your audience as well, so that they can see what kind of business you're running and how you're keeping yourself safe, and reviewing your own risk tolerance and risk appetite when it comes down to the work that you're doing.
Correct. Now, 100% agree and understand. That's I'm really looking forward to that one as well. But Aaron, I really do appreciate all that you had to share today. Absolute wealth of knowledge. Hopefully, I know I've learned something from stuff today, as well as I gather some of the listeners did as well. But really do appreciate your time, and look forward to connecting and going on your show in a couple weeks, it sounds like.
Sounds good, Marcus. I can't wait. Look forward to it. See you soon.
Thank you. Take care, Aaron.
Bye.